Well, hey folks, I'm Mike Landis, the Public Information Officer for the City of Republic, and we wanted to give you a video update today on how things were going. A lot of us have been stuck working at home for the last month and a half, but we're really starting to get excited about ramping things up, and we wanted to give you this little update on what the next few weeks could look like. David Cameron, City Administrator, how's it going?
Going good. How are you, Mike?
Pretty good. And driving around town right now, things are pretty slow, but we're not expecting them to stay that way much longer, right?
Yeah, it's obviously been a massive transition for all of us, and so, but I'm still seeing quite a bit of movement going on around the city, and which is a good thing. I mean, quite frankly, we're still seeing development, people out moving about, people using our park system. And, OTC projects coming along nice. We're getting ready to open up the bid for US 60 and Highway 174. Backwoods Golf is nearing completion. So there's still a lot of movement, housing development, things are going on. If you drive around the city, there's still a lot of things going on. Obviously, with the stay-at-home order and some of the guidance that was out there, it's obviously slowed down people getting out and about in the community. But we're still seeing a lot of traffic.
Yeah. When this thing all came down about a month and a half ago, it was, we talk about this, it wasn't changing by the day, it was changing by the hour and sometimes by the minute. And things just kind of happened very quickly. As we ramp things back up, we've talked about how we're not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight. It's going to be a ramped up approach, but we're excited about that. What do we have in place right now in the way of reopening when it comes to businesses and getting back to normal? It may be a new normal, but getting back to life as we knew it.
Sure. Well, I think it's important to understand that the Mayor Usher and I, we discuss this every single day. I mean, I know when this first started, we were on the phone on weekends, every opportunity to discuss it. So like you said, yeah, it doesn't change. It wasn't changing at the beginning daily, it was hourly. And so, and multiple messages. And so the Mayor and I have been, constantly working on what is one consistent, clear message that we want to proceed forward with. And so I think that what we want to convey is that we are working on that plan that is reasonable, because, the misunderstanding that we would be about just revenue or sales tax or something of that nature. Our objective is to get the economy back up and moving, and people moving around, and doing that because people are out of work and doing that. But also we want to be cognizant of the fact that there is a pandemic, there is a virus. We need to practice social distancing, just good housekeeping. But we believe, in our mindset of that is, Mike, that, the people that were creative enough to establish their own business model are wise enough to figure out how to maneuver with new guidance that we provide. And so the idea in our mind is that government doesn't need to be the ones providing that, necessarily telling people how to do their business. They were smart enough to create their business model and to be successful at it, which is why they have the business. They'll be just as creative and successful when we give the guidelines and to have some ramp up policy for opening that back up. But we also want to be cognizant of the fact that we are coming through a pandemic, but we got to be smart and we got to be wise. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're leading from a position of calm and resolve, not just something based upon fear.
Exactly. And communicating that message, I mean, there's been a lot of confusion out there, I mean, from a lot of different sources, but our goal has always been to provide just the facts. I mean, what's going on, and trying to just lead people in a way that's going to create, that calmness, if you will, but not doing away with concern completely.
Sure. Well, I think from the very beginning, our position was, and is to this day, was there was guidance from the CDC, the World Health Organization, the White House, state officials, county officials, and there were all sorts of directives and guidance being provided. That is why, we kind of said, listen, follow those guidances. We stayed with a clear, consistent message to follow the guidance that was being provided through the health agencies. And so we try to stay away from having additional documents, additional mandates, and just to keep it clear and consistent. So that's been our objective all along, is not to try to cloud or add additional information or over communicate it. Like we've said all along, our business community and our community are very astute adults, and they know how to lead their lives, and they don't need government telling them how to get that done. And so we want to be very clear to say, here's the guidance and we're asking people to follow it. And so we've just seen our community step up and do that. And so we just wanted to stay consistent with our messaging from the beginning.
Yeah. Obviously, with the way things have been, it's a tight time for people financially, whether you're just a family, a business owner. Same thing with the family, the city rather. I mean, we are a family, of course, but the city here, we're not sure what it's going to look like financially in the coming weeks and months. What are some things that we're doing here at the City of Republic to be the best stewards possible of the money that we do have during this time?
Well, fortunately for us, that's a great question. Fortunately for us, we were 72 years. Let's restart that. Fortunately for us, we were 72 days into our fiscal year. And so by doing that, we had a lot of provisions we had some vacant positions, some positions that had left. So we just chose not to fill certain positions in the city. We suspended the purchase of a lot of capital projects we were working on. We have unfortunately had to suspend like merit increases and COLA increases for employees. And there were positions like in public safety that were vacant that we've got a number of places that we're still going to have. We still had to cut costs for the remainder of the year. So we've also taken a concerted effort, Mike, over the last 3 or 4 years to pay off our debt. And so we were in a position, and I don't want to say that we were in a wealthy position, but we were in a position that we actually had cash accounts like people would have in their own home, cash positions that we could open up if we needed to for a slowdown. And so what we've done is we've suspended all spending for the remainder of the year. We have reallocated some cash accounts that might have been designated for specific projects, but were allowed to be used per our ordinances. But we just, this last 2 weeks, the mayor and city council approved a budget amendment for us that kind of restructures the way we're going to do it. But we also drafted a financial sustainability plan, Mike, and also a recovery plan. So I felt it was important not just to present a plan that talks about, hey, we got to weather this storm. Our plan actually talks about how we're going to come out of that. And so we actually said if we started seeing these markers or these indicators, that's what we were going to begin to do as an organization, not to place an undue burden on our taxpayers. So we're going to be working with our community, especially with people's utility bills. We've already announced that we were not doing shutoffs, but we're going to have to ride this storm out financially. But I believe that we have a very strong position to do so without losing our employees, without doing major layoffs or furloughs. That was our number one priority, was to keep our current staff in place. Where we're at because of their ingenuity, their creativity, it was important for us to sustain that. But sustaining our financial position, we started that long before COVID-19. We started that about 4 years ago, and I think that this situation is going to test all the measures we've put in place. But I feel like that we're prepared to weather this storm and not place an undue hardship on our taxpayer or our employees.
Sure. I know we're excited to get back out there and go to the stores and even to be able to sit down and have a meal at a restaurant, stuff you took for granted before. But when things open up, it's going to be very important for folks to remember the local businesses, the businesses that we have across Republic. Get out there and support those because they're going to be counting on us more than ever once we get going again.
That's right. And I think that what part of the thing, Mike, to that point is whatever we do, and I will tell you, it has the businesses in mind. And and getting out and supporting those businesses is paramount. But us finding creative ways for them to resume and for them to come up with ways for distancing and to occupy their spaces, that's going to be important. But we believe in the ability of those businesses to find those ways, provided the tools and the resources and the guidance to do it, that they'll get there. But I'll say this, from day one, between myself and the mayor, we take calls. Since this started, we've taken calls daily. We've returned calls daily. There'll be people that are watching this that have been a recipient of and said, hey, is this okay for me if I was to allow someone to do shop by appointment? So businesses that wanted to get an appointment with a business to say sell a jacket, sell clothes of some sort by appointment, we were actually providing, and we have allowed by appointment for people to operate. And so we've tried to be very understanding of the business community in our community to try to not skirt the law, but find reasonable, common sense approaches that try to meet the spirit of distancing If people need something, that they could get it through these businesses, and we tried our best to try to help them facilitate that. And again, we're not perfect at all that, but we try to find ways to facilitate and help, and not just try to apply black and white, because sometimes there is just gray in these areas. And I think we've taken those on a case-by-case basis, both the mayor and myself. Like I said, every day we've returned those calls and done our best to answer and provide an avenue forward. But it's going to be important for us, yes, to get out and support those businesses like our community appears to. From when I drive around, they're still doing it pretty good.
Yeah. Last question here, David. You were talking about a lot of development still going on. Obviously, we've got our own city project, the animal shelter still coming along, OTC, the golf center. What do you think that says about our community overall? We're not that we need to, reduce the concern, but it's looking really good still as we're going to be coming out of this. What do you think that says about Republic as a whole, as a community, and our strength?
I think it's resilience. I think it's value driven. I think it's a common sense approach. I think people, like I said, are extremely creative. Again, I think that the day that government tells you how you have to function is not right. I think our community has done this on their own, and they know how to self-police themselves and have done a fantastic job of doing so. And they found a way to continue to move and make development and things happen using the guidance and the freedoms that were provided that said, hey, continue to do this, that exercise judgment and discretion. They did that on their own. They didn't need government or myself or the mayor. We didn't do that. We provided guidance that was provided to us. I think the reason why we're still moving and seeing that success is because we're not choosing a heavy-handed approach at all. And I'm not saying anyone else has. I'm just saying that we've just chosen to say, let us work with your situation. Let us see if we can help you, because the mayor and I made an agreement from day one that we were not going to do a blanket statement and just a blanket apply the same tool for a potentially different situation. So as calls would come in with different dynamics to them, we took them on a case-by-case basis. And so, and I believe people made decisions from that were reasonable. I think the biggest part, Mike, that bothered me the most was the number of calls we took of people being scared that our police department would pull them over or something. That was never going to happen. And that was just not a message that we conveyed, but it was still the message that was out there. And but I believe people were starting to realize that was not something we were going to do. And they followed the intent and the spirit of the law. And I think we saw growth and development as a result of that. I know people are being cautious, but we're still seeing people move around. And there's some, and respectfully, there's some that would suggest that we should have restricted more movement. But I think we just try to apply a common sense approach. And I believe people used common sense approaches and got out and were able to be a community together, very resilient.
All right. David, anything else you'd like to wrap up with? I know we're going to be doing these video updates, hopefully weekly, very regularly, with different departments to update the folks. But any last words that you want to have regarding what we're doing?
I want to thank the community for their civility. I mentioned this. I don't care where you go, store, out and about. You just see the human spirit, the neighbor spirit, the people just treating one another with respect. I think people see people differently now. We see one another again like, wow, life got so busy, and now we're just starting to appreciate the value of being around one another. But Republic is about community. Our intention is still to have a blast. Our intention is still to, in some form or fashion, we're going to be reasonable overseers of what those things are. But what makes Republic so strong is our community involvement and engagement. And so we like to be out and doing things. Our park system has done a fantastic job of putting inspirational messages. But this is going to pass, and we're going to be stronger for it. But it's because of our citizens and our community and our city employees that make this happen. Like I said, I've never been so blessed to be a part of an organization with a mayor that's so committed and a council that's so committed to doing the right thing, allowing us to do our job, and so committed about not the bottom line. They're committed about doing the right thing. And I can promise you there's no political, I don't know let me say how to reword that. There's no political clout behind it, Mike. I think that it's about what is the right thing for our community to get this thing back open and be reasonable and responsible about it. But I could not be more proud of the community and how they've responded. and how we're going to respond from this and work together. But just a privilege to be a part of it.
Well, as you mentioned, the best is yet to come. So, David, thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.